Greetings, my magnificent ones. Sue Paulson here, your magnificence mentor. Welcome to Heaven on Earth. This video series has been designed to inspire you to create your brand of heaven on earth. So every week we do a little episode that focuses on one particular aspect of it. Often we look at the areas where there's darkness, where there's little bits of hell on earth that maybe we're self-created, maybe we just find ourselves immersed in for a period of time. Well, how do we get out of that? How do we move through all of that to go to something that's is really our heart's desire and that we want more and more and more? So today's episode is all about the power of light, particularly the power of your light. Now, you might have never thought of yourself as a being of light, but from the spiritual realm, that is exactly what we are. We are all beings of light, that here we've taken physical form. The light didn't go away just because we took physical form. The light is within us and it shines out. Now, if you doubt that, then just watch children. When they're happy and at play, you see this light just beaming out of them. It comes out of their eyes, out of their very pores, the smile on their face. And you see this light, and it's very attractive, right? We're drawn towards light. So when you think of it, I guess we're kind of like sunbeams. So we're this beam of light from the vast sun that is source, God, whatever you choose to title that higher focus that we all come from. And this light is such an essential part of us. We've done, unfortunately, a pretty good job of dimming our lights over time. I don't know about you, but I know I have. I've done a particularly marvelous job of living in the doom and gloom of life, allowing the outside influences that there are around me to swamp my boat, to keep me in the dark about things and feeling sad and mad and fearful and all of those negative emotions that don't make me feel all that good. And I suspect don't make you feel all that good either. Well, isn't it time to change that? Isn't it time to just get out of that mess and say, okay, I no longer want to wade through the cesspool that seems to be my life right now. There's got to be something better. So of course, that cesspool is the darkness, right? It's that darkness that shadows everything and shades everything to everything from, well, things aren't that great to bleak to absolutely terrible. Well, what's the contrast to that, of course, is lighter and lighter and lighter and until we get to the lightest part. Well, we don't recognize the light if we've never seen the dark, right? And sometimes we don't know what we want until we experience what we really don't want. So we need the contrast. And I don't mean to portray dark as evil, as bad, as wrong, because it's just dark. There's light and there's dark and there's contrast and there's shadow and there's everything in between. But what happens is when we subscribe to the meaning of dark, if we label it awful, then it is. Now, let's face it, no seed grows without some kind of protection and shelter from the dark. So when I lived on the farm, we'd create the little row and plant the seeds and then bury them in the soil, because they needed that darkness to kind of incubate themselves, right? And when we're born, we're surrounded by the darkness of the womb in order to help us to grow to the point that then we're ready for the light. So we come out into the light, and there it is. Oh, well, so how do we get out of, how do we move from whatever darkness that we're experiencing into light? I've been reading again, a favorite series of mine. This is called The Way of Mastery, book 1, and this is The Way of the Heart. And I came across this sentence that I really resonated with. I think I better put my glasses on so I can read it properly. All right. So it says, become committed, fully committed to the experience of happiness, even as you have been fully committed to unhappiness, limitation, and lack. Well, I thought about that and realized that there have been maybe far too many times in my life when I was committed to limitation, lack, and unhappiness, because it didn't seem as if I had what I wanted in life. And so there were periods, and somehow I didn't understand that I was responsible for my own happiness, that happiness comes from within. It comes as a result of my attitude about things, a way of thinking about things, and so on. And I just felt it was as a result of external forces outside of me. Oh, well, I don't have the partner that I want, or they're being mean to me, or whatever. And so I was unhappy. Or, well, I didn't have the kind of job that I wanted, and I wasn't making the kind of money I wanted to make. And so I was unhappy. So I labeled all these, well, if only I get a better job, I have a better partner, all of these things that were external to me, if only all of that would fall into place, then I'd be happy. Well, I needed to shine the light on that, because these were, I guess, uneducated thoughts that I was having. I didn't know where that was all coming from. Eventually, I had some experiences in life that showed me that I was at the root of it all, that I was the root cause of all my unhappiness. And when I discovered that, well, of course, it didn't make me all that happy to start with when I discovered it, but I'm going, well, if I'm the cause, then I can do something about that, I think. So I began this process of unraveling all of that big ball of darkness and messiness and saying, okay, let's shine the light. All right. So I brought in extra light from that. One of my sources of light came from some personal growth workshops that I took when I was in my 20s that helped me understand a little differently that I had way more power than I ever imagined that I had. I had the power to choose. And if I made good use of that, made good choices, then the results would be good too. So I mean, life is an experiment, right? It's a trial and error thing, and we go in different directions and take different paths and say, well, that wasn't it, that wasn't it, that wasn't it. But we learn each time. So as we get more light of understanding, oh, I see how this works. Oh, now I know differently. Now I know more than I knew before. Then I can take the next step, and I can maybe turn up the wattage on my light and let it shine a little bit brighter and a little bit brighter. So it's a process that we go through to not only help make more sense of our world, but to create the kind of world right here, right now, that suits us, that brings this level of happiness, and it totally relates to light. It totally relates to, people say, oh, lighten up. Well, why do they say that? Well, because they think you're being too serious about something. Maybe you're having a little rant about the construction going on in the city, or the traffic, or the crazy drivers, or the state of the world, the fact that there's heat waves everywhere, and the sense that, well, we're going to hell in a handbasket, as my grandmother used to say. Not sure what that was all about, or what that exactly meant, but it didn't sound good. And I'm going, whoa, well, there's the doom and gloom, right? So there's lots of evidence around us to lead us down that path. Well, is it as bleak as they say? Whoever they are, I'm not sure. Maybe. But how is it affecting me personally right now? It doesn't mean that I'm going to ignore that, but I may set that aside, and I may say, well, that is not what I choose to focus on, because quite frankly, the only thing that's going to change those dark and dire situations that are going on our planet right now is to shine more light on it. That's my perspective, is that we shine the light on it, the light of understanding, the light of more information, the light of compassion. We suspend the judgment. We let go of this addiction we have to participating in the trauma and the drama by just, oh, ain't it awful, ain't it awful, ain't it awful? And then the conversation goes round and round and round, and there's nothing light about it. So yes, we do need to lighten up, both in the way we view the world, and even more specifically, the way we view ourselves. That nothing is ever all doom and gloom. Nothing is ever all sunshine and roses. A dear friend of mine used to say, well, life is a sweet sour. Well, it is, and all the other taste bud sensations along with it. It's sweet, it's sour, it's bitter, it's, and on and on. And that's the variety and the spice that we call life. Well, it's our choice to decide, what am I going to do with this? So if I don't have the level of light in my life, and I don't know how to lighten up, well, what do I do? Well, we don't turn to the dark to see if there's anything left in there, because it's dark. So we don't go to the doom and gloom. Maybe we switch off the TV when the 11 o'clock news comes on, or the 6 o'clock news comes on, or we find a good news channel, and we don't listen to all of that. Maybe we change the conversation when we're with a group of people and it's heavy, 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 and everybody is always talking about what's wrong with the world. Well, what's right with it? What's right with you? There's a lot, I guarantee there's a lot more right with you and right with the world than what the media would report. I had my granddaughters over this week for a sleepover, and Nana doesn't get much sleep when there's a sleepover, but that's okay, because I'm just absorbed in the light that these two girls are. They're very different, each in their own right. And just their exuberance for life, their zest for life, their curiosity just warms my heart. And I feel lighter just in their presence, just being with them. So I think it's when we look for ways to say, oh, hang on, I got a hair here somewhere. Okay. When we look for ways that help us move to a more lighthearted approach to life and say, well, that's the way it is, or that seems to be the way it is. Maybe I can do something about it, and maybe I can't. Maybe I want to do something about it, and maybe I don't. One of my fondest things when someone is talking about tough times that someone is having, maybe somebody I know or a friend of theirs or whatever, and they're describing this and so on. I know that from my perspective, there's very little I can physically do to help them out in that case. But what I can do is I can beam them light. And so I'm fond of saying, look, I'll anchor the light for you on that. I know you're going through a tough time right now. I'm going to anchor the light and I beam them light. So it reminds me of Star Trek, where the captain would say, beam us up, Scotty. Well, they went into this tunnel of light and then, dematerialized wherever they were and rematerialized wherever they were going. Well, I love that visual. And I'm thinking, well, that's how we get out of dark places or dire places or dangerous situations is we go to the light. We look for the light. They talk about the light at the end of the tunnel. Well, there's a dark tunnel. And so if you can see the light, what are you going to move towards? You're not going to turn around and go back to the dark. You're going to move towards the light. So that's what we want to do, is to remind ourselves the importance of the light that's already inside us and move towards that. Then any of the dark crevices of our minds and our hearts and our emotions that need a little extra nourishment, then shine a light on it. So you can't have too much compassion, especially for yourself. We stumble along in life and have our challenges and face tough things as we go, as we experience. So we need lots of compassion in order to get through that. We need the light of forgiveness, forgiving ourselves for any perceived mistakes, any what we think of as wrong turns, the times when we felt remorse for having done something that hurt another. Well, we need to forgive ourselves, and that's where the light of forgiveness comes in, where we have compassion for the situation, we have compassion for whoever's involved, and say, well, on any given day, we're just doing the best we can. In any given moment, we're just doing the best we can. Well, as soon as I started adopting that understanding, I felt lighter. I thought, well, maybe it isn't perfect. It probably is never going to be perfect, but maybe it's good enough because it was the best I could do in that moment at that time. Could I do it better another time? Maybe, but this is right now. So in this moment, what is it that I can do to shed light on whatever I'm going through? It's a choice. We don't need to stay in the darkness. And as I mentioned before, sometimes we're a little too addicted to the drama of what's going on around us. We're addicted to other people's trauma. You look at video games, and some of the most popular video games, it's all war and killing. And I'm going, how can that be good for our psyches to be so immersed in that? And I get that there's some kind of an adrenaline spike or surge at the idea of winning out over someone else like that. That's this fictional scenario. But if you talk to anybody who's actually been to war, it's not glamorous. It's awful. And they come home wounded. They come home with psyches that are not whole because of what they've witnessed, because of the cruelty and the senseless slaughter of other human beings. So, and yet it's as if the movie industry and the video game industry and all of those media kinds of things think that this is for anybody's good. Well, it's for their good because it puts a whole lot of money in their pockets. But aside from that, what good does it do in the world? So I'm really questioning that. And when I watch some of the kids programs, this is a little rant on my part right now, because I watch some of the kids programs and it's the same thing. It's fighting, fighting evil and but it's all about fighting. And I'm going, wow, what are we training our little ones about? Is it about that, so that they can grow up to then be good consumers of the latest irate video game that's out there? I don't know, but it gave me pause, and I'm thinking, so I'm trying to understand that. I need to shine more light of understanding on that, because I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. And quite frankly, when one of my granddaughters requested a particular TV show that I thought was too dark, I said, no, we're not watching that, because I didn't want it impressed on their brains. There was more good things to choose from, better choices that would give them a sense of fun rather than what they were portraying in that particular show. So I think we can help each other. And let's face it, we need each other to help shine light. When I'm feeling down and my friend shines a light on a perspective that I have that's not a good perspective, and I need to shift my thinking, then I'm grateful, because that helped me to move through it. I cannot do it on my own always, because there's lots of turmoil going on in my head, and my brain spins and spins and spins and keeps looping back to the same old thing, the same old thing, the same old thing, the same old thing. But a little jolt from a friend who says, whoa, let's just think about that for a minute. And they shine this little light, and I'm going, oh yeah, oh, I didn't see it from that perspective. Oh, that's interesting. So it takes that to flip us around sometimes. And so we need each other to help us move through to whatever goals we have to create this heaven on earth that we so richly deserve. And I hope all of you are desiring. I know I keep moving in that direction, because that's what I want. That's my heart's desire, is to create heaven right here on earth, so that my days are filled with sunshine and light. My heart is light, and I just have more and more of my own light to share with others. I know that helps me. And of course, I'm sharing this with you today because in my heart of hearts, I hope it helps you. You know you can do this because you're that magnificent. So go shine your light this week and just beam it to everybody you can think of, and revel in the light that comes back to you. I'll look forward to seeing you next week. In the meantime, if you are enjoying this video series, please subscribe to my channel. You can also find more videos on my free app, The Magnificence Mentor, which you can download from the Apple Store or from the Google Play. Right. Take good care.